Commissioner of K-12 Education in Massachusetts. Well, not anymore. So you stopped acting. So now you go back to being the Chief Legal Officer of K-12 Education in Massachusetts. Where's McKeever? McKeever McCrary runs the New Commonwealth Fund, which is a relatively new and dynamic creative funding agency in the Boston area, and she's brought some of her colleagues with her. Will you introduce them quickly? Just a name?
Sure. Starting in the front, we have Kevin Morris, who actually is one of our partners with the Teachers Lounge, so folks who recognize his organization. Zach and Nadia are with the New Commonwealth Fund, which is my team, Racial Equity Fund. Thank you. Next to me is one of our long-term partners at SML. She runs a design agency that focuses on equity and the human being. My colleague Ziba and long time friend who's at some other institution across the river, who thinks a lot with students about how to use technology in our work. And then my dear friend and colleague Giselle, who leads an incredible fund here also in Massachusetts called the Nellie Mae Education Foundation. Don't swamp her during the break.
Thank you. Over there sitting on the floor for some reason is Sandy Gilmore, who's been my longtime colleague at the Advocacy Institute. And the beautiful woman in yellow, sort of in front of him, is my life partner, Cheryl. She's had many titles in her life, but her current title is Executive Director of Our Marriage. So I don't have time to get everybody's name, but can we do a quick shout out? Where are you from? And if you're from a district, when the first person mentions that district, the rest of you from that district, raise your hand so I can see how many of you there are. So where are you from?
Washington, D.C.
Keep going.
Buffalo, New York.
Buffalo. Keep going.
Los Angeles.
L.A.
Chicago,
Chicago, Illinois.
Rochester, New York.
Rochester.
Rochester in the house, yeah!
New York City.
New York City.
New Jersey.
Yeah. What's the town?
Roselle, New Jersey.
Roselle.
Perth Amboy, New Jersey.
Okay. Yeah, I know that exit. What else?
Dayton, Ohio.
Dayton.
Delaware.
Delaware. In okay.
Decatur, Illinois.
Decatur, Illinois. Close to my hometown. I'm from Chicago originally. Have been there a long time.
Philadelphia.
Albany, New York.
Philadelphia.
Philly.
Waterbury.
Connecticut. I know that exit too.
I know you do.
All right. Are we good?
Houston.
Who?
Houston.
From Houston. Can't forget Houston. All right.
Here's Fran.
Paris. I wish I could say something in French, but alas, I only have one line. I've been asked to sort of introduce myself by telling a story that I often tell. So I'm going to tell the story. I'm not sure, Deborah, how it connects to this presentation, but you are the sponsor, so I will tell the story. I came here in 1965. I graduated from Tilden Technical High School, which was at the time the test school in Chicago. Smart boys from the South Side went to Tilden Tech. I can tell stories about Tilden Tech, but I'll hold off on that. I came here and was part of the freshman class. We were a class of 69. Kim Marshall, of the Marshall Memo, was also in that class. So Kim, you can testify to this story in its veracity. I got here a week early. I had a term time job, cleaning rooms, and I was oriented to that. And then there was a general sort of orientation to the university that was held in Memorial Church, Memorial Hall which is the biggest hall at Harvard. So they have all 1,200 of the freshmen meet a day before class started, and we were given speeches by a number of university officials. And the first couple came on, they were good, they were interesting. But the culminating event was a speech by Nathan Pusey, who was the president of Harvard College, Harvard University. And Pusey strode onto the stage, and he gave a really very good speech in his stentorian, patrician terms. He told us about the traditions of the institution and about the fact that Harvard men, it was all men at that time, 1,200 of us, were expected to go and have some sort of an impact on society. He didn't have to name the people because we all knew who they were. And he went on about the expectations of us, and he closed with an important line. He said, "Now, gentlemen, look to your left and look to your right." Now, you know what the next sentence is in that statement. What is it? Somebody say it. Some of y'all didn't be here for 4 years, and some of y'all are not. He said, "Now, gentlemen, look to your left and look to your right. Understand that we expect all three of you to graduate on time and with honors. Because, gentlemen, Harvard does not make admissions errors." Do you have any questions? I said, "No, man, no." Leave it right there. And everybody walked out a foot off the ground. So I guess the connection with what I'm going to do today is this has to do with expectations coming from important authority figures and the effect of those. And pretty much everybody graduated on time, and most graduated with honors. So that's, I'll give you that as my background statement. Presentation today is going to be on the transformation imperative. Let me jump right into it. This presentation won't be about education reform. It's too late. It's been going on for 45 years. From a nation at risk till now. It is about 45 years, right? And there's been very little movement. After billions of dollars and many careers of serious, committed people spent on trying to make it happen, there's been very little movement. So it's no longer about reform. It's too late for that. It's about transformation. Say more. Leaders of school organizations, that would be you, I'm presuming, must fundamentally reinvent, restructure those organizations to deliver our students to the levels of proficiency required for college and career readiness. We have been very adverse to naming what it is we're supposed to do. People don't like talking about objectives in education, learning objectives, proficiency objectives. We're not going to have that problem for these 3 hours today. College and career readiness, a rigorous standard thereof. Transformation of the organization to achieve that. Fundamental transformation, not reform, not fixing things around the edges, not having a new reading program or instructional strategy. Fundamental transformation of organizations that are not currently set up to come anywhere close to achieving that. They will now be set up from the ground up to achieve it. Very quick reactions to that. Before you react, I'm going to tell you something. I've got more stuff to do in the 3 hours than I should have put in this presentation. And it's going to be a real challenge for me to make it all coherent. So I got to move quickly through it and make the connections, and you're going to evaluate me as to whether I do or not. But I need for you, when I ask for questions, comments, to put them in bullet point, one sentence if possible format, no paragraphs, because I don't have time. But I do want the interaction. Questions, comments about that. Very quick. One or two. Reactions. You crazy? Like that. All right. Yes.
Finally, like the word that comes to my mind is just finally. Like it's good to talk about.
That was it. That was my sentence.
You know, if the mic gets you in time, okay, but don't start over again because we need to keep going. So finally, any other comments? This is my warning to you that I'm about to move ahead. It would help if this thing worked okay. So it's about college and career readiness, right? And restructuring to get there. Here's a definition of college and career readiness. Students who are college and career ready will demonstrate the knowledge, skills, and abilities that are necessary to successfully complete entry-level, credit-bearing college courses, participate in certificate or workplace training programs of higher-order work, enter economically viable career pathways, not dead end, and engage as active and responsible citizens in our democracy. Now, I looked at a lot of definitions. This is the one I like the most. It happens to be abridged from the Massachusetts definition of college and career readiness and civic preparation that's been developed by the Office of the Commissioner of K-12 Education in Massachusetts. And just, I will tell you, full disclosure, I served on that Board of Education for 4 years, from 2008 to 2012. I got to really appreciate the quality of the work that was being done there. So this definition is available to you. You can go to mass.edu if you want to see the rest of it. The rest of it has to do with spelling out what the skills and the knowledge bases are that are expected to be mastered, especially in ELA and math. It's a very good, complete, operational definition of college and career readiness. This is a very high standard. This is a no-joke standard of education. It's going to take more than a notion to get the current people, kids and teachers, educators, to get them to that standard. And what I'm suggesting is that's the standard. Quick reactions? Learning at this level is existential. This presentation will be predicated on a number of understandings. I started to say beliefs, but I decided beliefs wasn't strong enough because that brooks possibility of opposition. As far as I'm concerned, what I'm about to say represents understandings. You don't have to accept it as such, but I want you to know that's how I think about it. First, learning to high proficiency standards is essential for securing the individual's place in a dynamic society. Okay? It's a 1 or a 0. Either you get to college and career readiness by the time you finish high school, or you are behind the 8 ball and may very well stay behind it for the rest of your life. Existential. 2. Learning at this level is essential for securing any population group's place in that society. So it's not just individuals, but underserved groups that are generally underserved in education, among all the other things that are underserved in, but almost always education. They have, as groups, no chance of joining the flow that's moving toward the 22nd century without having their kids achieve college and career readiness. It's a group question. Now here's a clue. The things that I put in italics, I think of as central statements that hold everything else together. And this is the first one of those. Now get this. A very large percentage of our children can get smart. That's a term of art. I'll explain what I mean a little later. But for now, it means they are capable of high-level learning and can achieve the appropriate range of proficiencies to graduate high school, college, and career ready. Just read that yourself, take it in. You've all been sent this presentation already. It should be in your email. For my folks who came sort of with me, if you could tell Julia LeBlanc, Julia, raise your hand, sort of on the next break, give her your email address. She can send you the presentation as well.
They already received.
Yep, they already got it?
Yep.
You're good. So, there's a less formal way of saying this that might be worthy of a note that you could take. Ain't nothing wrong with these kids. I'm talking 90% plus, at least mid-90s, are fully capable of getting to a rigorous standard of college and career readiness by the end of the 12th grade. Now, if that's true, ensuring that they do so, and it is true, ensuring that they do so is therefore a practical and a moral imperative. Long-term ineffectiveness of education systems at doing this is therefore
immoral.
Say it loud.
Immoral.
Malpractice.
But more deeper than that is immoral. If they are capable of getting to the standard that they need to get to function in good lives in society, and we don't get them there, the failure to get them there and to go on year after year, generation after generation of school organizations failing to do it. They're capable of doing it. We're not making it happen. The not making it happen is immoral. And when you think about the consequences of that, I think you'll see what I mean, whether you agree or not. Let me stop. Turn to each other in groups of 3 and just discuss that chain down to the last bullet very quickly. 3 minutes, 4 minutes, quick. Okay, this is my first temperature check, so I want honest reactions to this. Let's popcorn around the room. Give me quick bullet point sort of reactions. When somebody gets started, it'll roll.
Education is a civil right.
Yes, even a human right. Keep going.
No excuses. They gotta do it. We gotta get them there.
Both. They got to get there, and we have to get them there. But I like no excuses. No more excuses. Keep going.
Challenge mindsets, a mindset shift.
There's got to be a mindset shift that goes along with this, and as it happens, we're going to be talking about that. Okay, I may need some help.
We have something called never lowering a crown. The teacher has the crown, the high expectations. At that 151 day, she passes it to the kid because that's when our state test happens. So our motto is every day they hear, don't lower the crown. You lower the crown. You lower the expectation.
Because they don't give it to them in time to do anything about it.
There it is.
And I'm going to tell you, that's not just incompetence. That is motivated incompetence. What does that say? Well, we don't tell the kids what the standards are they have to achieve until right before they have to be assessed. What are we saying? What are we doing? What are we doing? Say again? Yeah, but there's also something else that I'm doing for me when I don't give it to them. What am I doing?
Control it.
I'm sending a message, don't hold me accountable for this. Okay, you want them to pass this test? The day before, here's the standard you got to pass. But it's not my responsibility. One or two more.
The overarching theme is having high expectations for all of our students and promoting positive affirmations.
The overarching theme is having high expectations. In fact, realistic expectations given their actual capacity to do it. Aligning the expectations with reality. And again, I'll make a case for that a little later. One or two more? Yes.
The achievement gap facilitates the will gap.
The achievement gap, now we're talking the group process. Different groups get different treatment educationally, and we know who they are. And the ones that are at the bottom of the education servicing can be expected to be the ones who are poor. And then their poverty justifies continuing to give them less. Okay, let me keep going. Oh, one more. Effective educators, those who create organizations that move young people to CCR, college and career readiness, will be among the most important, respected, self-respecting, and powerful people in society. Now, I'm not talking individual teachers who do that, and they're going to get to heaven. There are individual teachers who make this happen in their classrooms. I'm talking people who make school organizations do this. Will be the most important, respected, self-respecting people in society. So the stakes are very high on this for everybody. And by the way, you can stop me if you have questions, especially questions of clarification about how all this fits together as we go through it. So, given all that, what are we here for this morning? The goal of a good school district, of a decent school district, of a well-operating and well-led school district, and of any serious educator must be graduating 95% or better of students at a rigorous standard of college and career readiness with a very low dropout rate. So you don't get credit if you're pushing out 30% of the kids as soon as they turn 16. you're working to keep them in, and what you have is what might be called a natural dropout rate. There's a natural dropout rate. Kids who get sick, get ill, kids who have mental issues, kids who move away. So whatever that natural rate is, you can subtract that number and you get 95% of the rest. That's the goal. All employment in the school organization is directly connected to this goal. No job is safe that's not contributed. I mean, from the janitorial staff to the lunchroom staff, everybody who's in that building and getting a paycheck is directly connected to getting kids to college and career readiness, because that's what we're about here. Quick reactions to that?
I think it's a stark reminder. I think people often forget. I think people forget why they're there. So I appreciate that last statement.
Yeah, and that's not just the janitors. A lot of people over the years go in the classroom, close those doors, and they forget why they're there. And it's understandable because the organizational structure is not serving them, and because nobody has told them why they're there. So how are they supposed to know? Especially in the adversity that they face every day with kids who've been through COVID and kids who are coming from difficult backgrounds. They do forget. Okay, so this is not a theoretical presentation. I intend for this to be operational. I'm going to attempt to give you a framework that you can use to move and make things happen in your districts. And again, I want to be evaluated in those terms. Was it operational or not? Here are some elements of transformation. Begin with a clear, compelling learning objective. And I have offered you one that I am very strongly recommending for you. An end of the process objective that is rigorous and that can restructure all the work that is done below that terminal date. Inspire belief that we are capable of achieving the objective. One of the big problems, over the years, I have represented the idea of objectives everywhere that I've gone. And everywhere I've gone, it's been a sticking point. People don't want to talk about objectives. I have lost contractual relationships because I pushed objectives too hard because people didn't want to talk about objectives. And I've come to a conclusion about why that is, and it has to do with the second bullet. You can't talk about objectives with people who don't believe that they have the wherewithal to achieve those objectives. They don't want to hear that. You don't understand my situation here. You don't understand the kind of kids that are coming to this building. But they have all kinds of reasons that are very clear. They don't believe that it can be done. That has to be addressed. We have to set the objective high, okay, rigorous, and we have to inspire belief that we, those of us working with these kids, are capable of achieving the objective. They have to believe it before they can truly embrace it. And we're going to talk about the whole question of belief. Leaders have to commit to it unambiguously. Raise your hand if you're a superintendent or have superintendent of any kind in your title. Superintendent has to stand up and has to unambiguously commit to the objective of getting 95% of kids to college and career readiness. They get everybody who cares about kids to do the same. They won't do it unless you do it. And by unambiguous, I mean it can't be, we're going to try. We hope to. If things work out, we'll make progress in. That's ambiguous. Unambiguous is, we're here to set kids up to live good lives. College and career readiness is required to do that. That's what this organization is about. That's what I'm about. I don't know. I may need help in figuring out how to keep this from happening. I don't know what I'm doing or if I'm doing anything that's making it happen. Okay, let me get this set back up. Okay. I'm plugged in. I shouldn't do it when I'm plugged in. No. So maybe I have to toggle. I'll try toggling if it happens again. Where the presentation is showing up, computer only, screen only, both. So that's this button. I know the button. I'll try that. But you might want to sit close by. So begin with a clear, compelling statement of the objective, inspire belief that we're capable of achieving it, unambiguously commit to the objective, leaders. And then, again, this is in italics, you know what that means. You've got to build the culture and organizational structures that will effectively mobilize the intelligence of educators to figure out how to achieve the objective at the classroom, building, and district levels. There's a statement out now about sort of what's happening politically in the country. Nobody's going to save you. You've got to save yourself. Well, here's what I'm saying to you. Nobody from the Harvard School of Education or Columbia or whatever your local school of education who's been studying this all their lives and are committed and they're serious, none of those people are going to save you. What's going to save you is mobilizing the people who work in your district and getting them to figure out how to get the kids to the standard. This is a very different way of thinking about it. As you begin to move the needle, you're going to have to effectively manage the resistance that will come as night follows day when you start becoming effective in moving the needle. There are going to be people who get very upset. They'll get somewhat upset when you're talking about it, but they've heard people talking about stuff before and nothing ever happened, so they're not going to get too worried about that. But when you start organizing the district to make it happen, and the needle actually begins to move, I'm going to tell you right now, they're going to come at you. Okay? And you're going to have to be ready. You have to understand the nature of resistance, and you've got to have moves to take care of it. We're not going to be able to talk about that now, but resistance can be managed. So these are some elements, and a lot of the presentation will follow these elements of transformation. Now I'm going to keep going unless I see from you that you need to talk among yourselves or to me. As we think about mobilization, I think it's necessary to spend a couple of minutes talking about how we have approached school reform in this country. And I want to critique how we've approached it. There are basically three models that I know of, two of which are in use, one of which is the one that I'm proposing to you. First one is top-down reform. Experts from academic and consulting worlds generate solutions which they really believe are the right solution, and then they give them to educators to implement. And if you'll just do what we're telling you to do, everything will be okay. And I'm going to tell you, when such people talk among themselves about why nothing's happening, the general consensus is because the people on the ground in educational, in schools and school districts, they're just unwilling or incapable of implementing the solutions we're giving them. It's your problem. The second is the inductive best practices reform movement. Inductive is starting at the ground level of evidence and looking at all that evidence and using it to form a conclusion once you understand all the evidence, building up to a conclusion. Compilation of research-based best practices in curriculum and instruction will add up to education reform. I'm going to talk about the weakness of that in a minute. I don't believe the first two work. Ask me how I know. So I am suggesting to you something different that I am confident will work because I'm confident in your capabilities. Mobilization of professional expertise. In this model of transformation, educators who believe that people can get smart are inspired to figure out how to transform their schools. Read that sentence and take in the meaning of it. They are organized into empowered professional learning communities based on clear objectives, based on something that I call the SDIS, which I'll explain in a minute, but it's basically a system of using feedback about current performance to adjust strategies to get better performance. It's the self-directed improvement system is what it's called. So they're organized into empowered PLCs based on clear objectives, the use of an SDIS, self-directed improvement system, understanding of their particular circumstances, and access to what my colleague John Safier calls the knowledge base of teaching. They use these elements to build their approaches to transformation. Mobilization of the people that we have to get them to figure out how to do it. Now this is very different. Okay? There are school districts or clusters within school districts that have an assistant superintendent or a director who kind of figure all this out on his or her own. And they go like this, right? But as far as I know, you correct me, it hasn't happened in any of your districts. This third approach has not worked, and I'm telling you that the potential for it is already in your organizations. The people who can figure it out are already there, but they're not mobilized. React to that. Am I blowing smoky?
Amen.
Push back to them. I want some skepticism. But Jeff. Yes.
Not skepticism, but that figuring out to be a lonely place.
Yes. But there's an antidote to that that's right there.
To build off of that, how then what does the support model look like at each level? So at the building level, the classroom level, the teacher level.
What does the support look like? Because it can be a lonely place. And you want people to feel that they're part of something, but they're not alone. That's one of the questions that leadership teams have to answer. Now, I hope to give you some answer to that, but that is a critical question. And ultimately, leadership teams that take this on have to create a sense of community of the people who are spending their time and their effort and talking to each other on the phone over the weekend, okay, and meeting at the bar after work to talk about this. They're going to be, to do this, they're going to be all in, and they need to feel like they're part of something and that they're supported. They can't feel isolated. One or two more?
We started this 5 years ago.
Who's we? Tell again.
North Dayton School Discovery, Dayton, Ohio. We started this. We started leveraging our strong teachers to do the work,
Okay.
to look at the data. And it was hard in the beginning until we started investing in them, sending them to PLC, the solution tree, PLCs, how to get the PLC
Operating effectively.
Now we operate effectively. We have a coalition.
Is it working?
Yes.
How do you know?
Because every Wednesday, no matter what, that's a standard in the school. Every classroom level has their PLC.
So the PLCs are working.
PLCs.
But is it working? What's the question I'm asking? What's the impact on the students?
The impact on our students Our reading is off the charts.
That's what I hear.
Our math is the Achilles heel.
So it's somewhat working.
Yes, we
But
have to get our
that beats the
math.
hell out of a whole bunch of the other folks in
Yes.
the room, right?
Yes,
So you've got it for ELA,
yes,
but you haven't yet cracked it for mathematics.
for mathematics.
Brockton High School, which is a very famous high school in Massachusetts, went from worst to first, literally. It became a national story. It was in the New York Times and in your local paper. Sue Sacklewitz was the principal. They went from worst to first in ELA. Okay? It's an immigrant community. Often the kids are coming from homes where English is a second language. They're kids of color. They went from worst to first, but not in math. So you all got, okay? Yes.
I have a suspicion that in attempts to implement the mobilization of professional expertise, the most common risk might be that it slides into your second category of inductive best practice reform, if not done intentionally by the leaders. And I'm just wondering if that is a common risk, and if you have thoughts about how to prevent that from happening.
That's a great question. When there is success, people tend to want to know exactly what was the recipe,
Yes.
and they want to implement that recipe.
Yes.
Well, what we're suggesting here is that the recipe is the process where you in your building figure out how to accomplish this with your kids. Okay? So yeah, there is a risk that it can sort of slide into, here's what we did, bang, 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 now you try to do that. That is not the answer. Okay? Keep going. Here's the anatomy of our current stagnation. Top-down reform has generated fatigue and skepticism. People have noticed that it hasn't worked. Okay? They're not stupid. You're coming in with something new every year. That's going to be the answer, and it never works. We tried that. It didn't work. Successive solutions are labeled by educators flavors of the month. I mean, I've had people, you won't believe this, but I've had people look at me and say that to my face. Well, so you're the new flavor of the month. The top-down reform model is regarded by many on the ground to do the work as fundamentally disrespectful. You people fly in here, you know, crap all over everything, and then you fly back to Cambridge. So we can keep giving them new stuff, but they're already sitting like this. And they mean it. And they have justification. The inductive approach is unwieldy. It's too big and too messy. There's too much to memorize, because there's a lot of stuff that people say, this is the stuff that works. The book gets thicker every year, right? Of stuff we're supposed to memorize. And they just look at it and they go back to doing what they've been doing. The inductive approach is typically not connected to clear objectives. So we're supposed to learn this. Why? To date, it has not added up to transformation, and I don't believe it ever will. So these two approaches, which I believe are by far the dominant approaches, have failed us. And what's the definition of insanity? We've been doing this for 45 years. Yes.
But is the problem that these solutions are bad, or is it the problem that we haven't substantially changed the beliefs of people and the capabilities of our children?
That's an important part of it. But we've been doing this for 45 years. You'd have thought that somebody would have considered the possibility we had to change the beliefs to find out if they work. I think there's inherent problems with each one. People don't own these. Your people don't own the reform process if somebody flies in and gives them what they're supposed to be doing. You know, they're not professionals anymore. I think that is as much of a problem as the lack of belief. Other reactions?
Could you expound on the inductor program? Is that like basically when, foundation, like they just keep bringing in different curricular, is that what you
Yeah, Ron Edmonds came up with 12 correlates of effective schools.
Okay.
Right? And when he did, now that was great work. In fact, he did that here. He was here. He died at 39 or something? Who knows where he would have gone if he had lived a long life. But he came up with this, and he was really the first person that kind of showed what it looked like. From there, other people, after he was gone, took those and they started building out the specific things you had to do under each one. And the book got thicker and thicker and thicker until it was useless. And nobody paid any attention to it. So that's the kind of thing we're talking about. And there's a lot of that. People come up with a new reading program, and that's the panacea. If you just do the new reading program, everything will work. Yes.
Actually, just sitting here and thinking about what you presented, it makes me think about, this is very similar to weight loss. Think about all of the people, the professionals, the ways that people have come up with how to lose weight. And for a person that has struggled with it pretty much all my adult life, it's when I figure out what's going to work for me. It's internal, and to try to take on something from an external place and try, okay, I'm going to do, okay, what'd you do? Oh, you lost 50 pounds. I'm going to do what you did. But I can't do what you did. Maybe I'm a pescatarian and you're a vegan, or maybe I have to work from 8 to 12 or whatever. And I have to find my way.
As a school administrator who's trying to lead a reform effort, bringing something in that somebody else developed that doesn't really fit me has not worked. So what I'm proposing, our preferred model of transformation, this is one where you can put, in my opinion, in front of you. Mobilization of expertise, of professional expertise, offers a clear target, CCR, around which to mobilize. Clear, challenging, but realistic targets or objectives are psychoactive. They literally change what's happening in the brain. When you put something in front of people now, here's what I want you to do. Okay? I want you to get there. You're here now. I want you to organize yourself to make that happen. But I want you to get there. He looks at that and says, well, darn, I can do that. Changes him. He's not there now, but he starts thinking about what the strategy is going to be. What kind of effort do I have to put in? How much time am I going to have to spend? It changes his brain to have a challenging, compelling objective. We have failed to get that in K-12 education in this country because nobody's been willing to get behind clear, compelling, challenging objectives. Now you got one. College and career readiness. Mobilization of expertise is effective because it's premised on bedrock confidence in the capabilities of educators and students. When you give people the answer, you're expressing lack of confidence in their ability to come up with answers that can work. You need me to give you the answer. Okay? Because, push comes to shove, you're not really professionals. You're workers, and you need somebody to tell you what to do. This works because it's the opposite. Instead of giving you the answer, I'm expressing confidence that you can come up with it. When confidence is deliberately and clearly communicated, it also becomes powerfully psychoactive. So now, you got a whole bunch of brain cells firing, okay? You can do this. Okay? It's important for you in your life, and it's something you can do. It's going to be a challenge. You can almost see the neurons firing. You can smell it when you walk. It has this electrical smell when you walk into the building. Mobilization of professional expertise as a strategy is fundamentally respectful. John Safier came up with something, I call it Safier's Trio, which I've been using for years. He tells people to tell kids, this work is important, I know you can do it, and I won't give up on you. You might want to take note of that if you don't know it already. That's really powerful. I'm amending that a little bit. This is important, getting kids to this standard, organizing ourselves to do so. We know you, our faculty, can do this. The knowledge to get this done is right in the room. And therefore, we depend on you to figure it out. Ain't nobody going to come in here with a recipe. We're going to figure it out based on our kids and our circumstances, and we're going to get there. So this is the model we prefer. This is, I believe, the only one that's going to work. It comes from within the organization, and we own it, and we're proud of it. We're proud of the process we take to get to it. We're proud of whatever progress we're making year over year to get to it, because we know we did that ourselves. Quick reactions? This is different, people.
I just think about the, I guess I use the word equity implications.
Equity?
On this.
Because if I'm just completely honest, some schools and demographics get this freedom, and others, because we are labeled as the ones that need to reform, don't. So it's like we're over-policed.
Serious, committed educators who understand that this is a moral question don't get permission to do it. What do?
They ask for forgiveness.
They take it. They do it, and dare somebody to come in and mess with them, especially given that I can show you results from the first 6 months.
Yeah, no, that's
By
my
the
life
time you all
right now.
find out that I'm doing it at the district level, okay, or at the state level, you find out I'm doing this and you didn't want me to. By the time you find out, I'm getting results. I got neurons firing. Okay, psychoactive stuff is going on. But you don't wait for permission. It's a moral question. It's like some fascist takes over the country and you wait for a position, you wait for permission to try to do something about it. They're not going to give you permission.
So, Jeff, I'm just waiting on permission to speak now. All right, so what I'm thinking about is if we, as a committee at a school, move the needle, there's a great level of sustainability that happens because we did it ourselves. Yeah, the individuals there, they have the institutional knowledge to keep this thing going, whether I'm here or...
That becomes one of the questions you put to them. How, okay, now, y'all are making real progress. How are you going to sustain this? And they will figure out how to sustain it. Ain't nothing wrong with these people. So it offers, this approach offers a clear target, is premised on bedrock confidence, is fundamentally respectful. Okay, we're communicating, we know you all can figure this out. And it empowers educators on the ground to reinvent the process based on feedback about what works and what doesn't. Now, the feedback element is going to be very important, and I'm going to talk about that if I don't get too far behind. Okay? This is a little bit of a diversion, but I wanted to give you these definitions. We invented the idea of efficacy, and therefore we felt we could define the word. We rejected, or just put aside the dictionary definition. This is the definition we came up with. Efficacy is the capacity to mobilize the effort and intelligence of adults and children toward development. And it's one of those definitions, this goes back probably 30 years, but it still works for us. Okay? And it's consistent with what I'm saying today. So what is development? Okay, efficacy is the process of mobilizing people toward development. What is development? Development is the process of becoming better, stronger, and smarter at anything you do. I used to have a very academic definition of development that came from my doctoral dissertation. And it was the only one that I had. Somebody said, well, how do we say that to kids? And this is what we came up with to say to kids. Boys and girls, you become better, stronger, and smarter. And kids loved it, and so did adults. So we changed it to this. Development is the process of becoming better, stronger, and smarter at anything you choose to do. For children, it's the achievement of proficiency in targeted learning outcomes at each grade level in the progression. For educators, it's learning to move children to proficiency at each grade level. For district leaders, people, it's learning to build the culture and organization to achieve the 95% CCR objective. It's going to take some learning, some serious development for you all to figure out how to play the leadership role in making it happen. Someone asked me earlier about the teacher in 206. I want to give you as evidence of the doability of this, the teacher in 206. This is a lady or a gentleman who's got a class across the street from the worst, toughest housing project in town, social disarray, crack vials, violence, the whole thing. And this is the school that's right across the street. Okay, she's got a 5th grade classroom. She takes rising 4th graders, okay, who come out of 4th grade the way kids often look in schools like that. So they get to the 5th grade and they look up, they're like this. Oh no. Okay, first day of school. By the end of the year, 206 has those kids operating at a true proficiency standard in all subjects. Okay, you walk in class on the first day and they got their heads down. By the end of the first week, their heads are up. By the end of the second week, their hands are up trying to answer questions. Okay? By the end of the year, they are operating at a level appropriate to the more affluent towns around your city. Right? The way those kids operate. Do you recognize her?
Yes.
Raise your hand if you know a 206. All right, now you're not blowing smoke back at here. Okay, on the count of 3, I want you to say his or her name, last name. 1, 2, 3.
Oh, yeah.
So these are real people who do this. So many of you know a 206. What does it mean that 206 can do this with these kinds of kids? What does it mean?
Possible.
That is, say again?
That is not the kids.
See, the kids were not the problem in 4th grade, because these are the same darn kids. So how does she do it? I want you to bullet point me like single words or very short sentences, but let's popcorn around the room. What are the things that he or she does to make that happen by the end of the year?
Build relationships.
Build relationships with the kids of respect. Keep going. Say yes.
Affirm the student.
Affirm them, build their confidence. What else?
Being ruthless.
Being what?
Ruthless.
She is, that's an interesting word. This man or this woman is a ruthless educator. It becomes clear to these kids, this woman's crazy.
Right.
She expects me to do this homework. Keep going, what else? Engaging, runs a class that the kids enjoy being, they're laughing and paying attention.
She doesn't wait for permission.
To do the things that she knows needs to be done to get her kids to that standard, which nobody's asking her to do. So she's inventing stuff or bringing stuff in that they don't even know about.
Putting kids first.
She is always about the kids and putting kids first.
High expectations.
She's optimistic in her orientation to life and focused on achieving her objective.
High expectations.
She has high expectations of
Achievement of solid
herself and of the kids.
She is what they want them to be.
She's what?
She is
what they want, what she wants them to be.
She models it in her person. Okay, and they see that she doesn't have to tell them that, they see it. All right,
Families
one or two
accountable.
more. Say again.
Holds families accountable.
She develops a relationship with families, okay? Those parents see those kids coming home acting different and using 35-cent words accurately, and they know something's going on. So when she asks them to come in, a lot of them will come. Okay, I gotta keep going. We could go on forever, but yes. So given that 205 and 207 and 301, 234, and 401, 23 are not doing this, and 206 is right there in their building, what the heck is going on? What's going on? I want an answer. How do you explain that?
Stop believing.
But she's doing it right in front of them. So how can they not believe it? Say again? They're not prepared to put in the effort or the commitment. Keep going. What else? They don't want to. They don't feel like they have to. And where can you place responsibility for them not feeling they really have to? The leader. The leader knows what's going on because the leader's seeing the data coming back every year, year after year. And to have this going on and have nobody else feeling any pressure to change what they do, you got a problem with leadership.
What if they don't know how?
Very often the leaders don't know how to spread it across the building. And they haven't figured it out. Now the first part might not be their responsibility, but they come in, they don't know how. But the second part, after years, haven't figured it out, whose responsibility is that? Any administrator who's got a 206 in their district and you know about him or her, and you've done nothing to extend that across the district because it's now clear what's possible, how do we have to think about that administrator? Is that too harsh? I don't want to. We already have all the knowledge we need to educate all of our children to high standards of proficiency and ultimately college and career readiness. We just don't use it. That's one of the famous statements that came out of Ron Hendricks. We already know everything we need to know. We just don't use it. So here's the question of the day. What will it take to get a critical mass of us in the room to make an absolute commitment to use what we know and learn what we don't to move our kids to proficiency and then on to college and career readiness? That's what we came to talk about today, all of us in the room. You might not have known that's what you were coming to talk about, but that's what you were coming here to talk about with me today. Can I suggest a 3-minute stand-up stretch? Talk to each other, generate any questions you have about what we talked about so far. Don't leave the room unless you have to. We'll have a real break. The schedule break. This is a very short break. This is not a 15-minute break, people.
All right, we're sorry about that.
Testing. We're live. Okay, start right up. Okay, and any thoughts, observations from your little discussions just now? Questions? Insights? Particularly interested in insights and any constructive pushback. But Jeff?
I just thought about when she said ruthless, and we were talking about risk, and we were talking about everybody in our building, and most of our team, like we have like a 90% same mindset. We were talking about a specific teacher, and the ruthlessness of no, she does not care. There's no, oh, she's lacking confidence. No, we've seen it.
Doesn't care about it.
Yeah, she's like, this is her belief. Like, that's a problem. Like, she got to go. Like, it's not anything else. It's that.
Yeah, there are people who don't care.
Right.
My suspicion is that in a mobilization regime, there will be fewer of them than you think. That they will feel the fire. They'll see people walking around sparkling. And they're going to want to join that. Maybe reluctantly at first, but give them half an excuse. It's going to be a small percentage who don't care enough, so they're going to want to get out, and you can help them to the door. Yes.
For my specific situation, I was just thinking from a district office perspective, starting with a critical analysis of what we are doing and if we could possibly be in our own way.
As a district administrator, you are asking the exact perfect starting question. And you want to ask that question in a way that all your principals see you asking it. Okay? The teachers know that you're working on that because, again, you are modeling for them the behavior that you're going to expect. But it has to start with the leadership team of the district. It starts with the superintendent and then her leadership team. One or two more? You know what this means. Okay, so let's talk a minute about the mission. The mission for the district is at least 95% of students at college and career readiness within 5 years. If you get people fired up, is 5 years enough? You think, is it 7 years? How long is it? Clap if you think it's less than 5 years. For the whole district. Getting the district to 95%. So all the kids graduating from high school
as a mission.
Okay, with only a natural dropout rate, our college and career readiness. Clap if you think it's less than 5%. Less than 5 years. Clap if you think that 5 years may be about right. Clap if you think it's 7 years or more. Okay. You got to be realistic about whatever your circumstances are. Okay, but that's the mission. At the classroom and building levels, define proficiency for each subject at each grade level. And then accelerate. You get this. This is 1990s PowerPoint skill. And then accelerate all students to those targets. Now get this for the connection. Grade level proficiencies, which the teachers do, are a stepwise progression that leads to college and career readiness. It's one system with one overarching objective. And every player in the system knows what his or her job is. I'm a first grade teacher. My job is to get them to this standard. So by the end of elementary school, they're at this standard. And when they go to middle school, their job is to get them to this standard. And if that all works, then we're on track to get 95% of them to college and career readiness when they graduate. It's a unified system with everybody understanding their job, which you can only do when you have an objective that everybody understands. The teachers understand it, the kids understand it, the parents understand it, the school board understands it, the city council and the mayor understand it. Right? Now you can create a system designed to get to an objective. So again, let's do some definition work. Here's a definition of academic proficiency that I took from the NAEP, the National Assessment of Educational Progress. Made some small changes, but this is fundamentally their definition. Academic proficiency is solid academic performance for each subject assessed. Students reaching this level have demonstrated competency over challenging subject matter, including, now look up, knowledge and application skills. That's the magic of this fine definition of proficiency that's come down to us from the feds. Right? We recognize that it's not just about knowing stuff, it's about being able to apply what you know in real life situations. Knowledge, subject matter knowledge, facts, concepts, procedures, orders of operation, the stuff that you have to memorize. Application skills, application of such knowledge to real world or novel situations. Reasoning skills, analytic skills appropriate to the subject matter and or demonstration of capacity to synthesize and evaluate. In effect, it's problem solving, taking the knowledge and using it to solve real world problems. Understand real world realities. So again, that's the NAEP definition. I asked my people to come up with a simpler way to talk about this, and they met in a small group. They sent me away so I wouldn't interfere with the process. And here's what they came up with. And I came back ready to critique it and to offer my own input. What more do you need to say? Kids understand this. Parents understand this. The city council will understand it. A word about the issue of standards versus assessment, which people often confuse. Not people in this room, but in my experience, there's a lot of confusion about the difference between standards and assessment. So just a quick clarification. Proficiency is a standard. It's a target of knowledge and application skills that we strive for. It is not an assessment like a state proficiency test. People in Massachusetts, some people are trying to get rid of the MCAS, our state test, as a graduation requirement right now. It drives me crazy. Okay? Because on some level they confuse it. They say, you're making education about a test. No. We use assessments, including state tests and a range of in-class tests, demonstrations, and writing assignments, to determine who is meeting the standard and who is not. We have the standard, you got to be able to drive in a way that doesn't get you or anybody else killed. And then we have the assessment. We got a driver's test you got to pass before we give you certification that you can now drive on our streets. Standard and the assessments we use to measure whether you're achieving it or not. So that's proficiency for students. And then we say, okay, what about this? How about adult proficiency? Turns out it's a useful construct to think about the development of grown-ups too. Definition of adult proficiency can apply to teachers, parents, uncles, aunts, anybody, grandparents, anybody who's working with young people. Demonstrated capacity to move students in a school or a community to reading, writing, and math proficiency and strong character, culminating in CCR. Proficient adults are able to move kids through the proficiencies that will get them to CCR. Proficient adults use their subject matter knowledge and their application or instructional skills to create learning environments that motivate the drive for learning and mobilize young people's intelligence and effort toward the proficiency targets. They will figure out how to get themselves to the target when they're in the care of a proficient adult. So, put this up after we first developed it. We had another session at Harvard with a group of principals. And one woman raised her hand and she said, now I understand the problem. I said, so what? She said, I don't have enough people in my building who meet that definition. And I said, wait a minute, something's not quite. And then it struck me. Okay, I said, and how many years have you been principal at that school? 7. At that moment, a new definition was born. A definition of school administrator proficiency. Demonstrated capacity to mobilize the intelligence of other adults in the school community and advance their adult proficiency. Proficient administrators use their leadership skills and clarity about the mission to mobilize the intelligence of everyone in the school community. They get everybody focused on figuring out what to do to achieve the mission. They create professional learning environments for educators. They get parents fired up and committed, and they educate and win the support of community leadership. Not just the superintendent. You've got principals going and talking to church groups. Okay? They're spreading the idea that we can do this, and this is how we can do it. Questions, reactions to that, administrators in the room?
This is amazing to me because I just spent the last year, we're revamping our leadership impact, our school leader impact in our district. And this is what, like I was fighting and talking about, like administration should be able to mobilize the people in their building, like human capital should be able to use it to move students, to like move the mission, move the students mobilized. But like, I feel like so many of the evaluating tools now for administrators is not aligned to that. It's all this other stuff that they want to check off. And it's like, if this is not what's happening, like, what are we saying?
If this is useful to you in moving your district in the proper direction, it is yours to use. That's what it's for. Other quick reactions? These people, these proficient administrators, mobilize the adults to empower them to mobilize young people's efforts toward rigorous proficiency targets. Everybody's mobilizing everybody else. So look up. Adult proficiency is the basis for proficiency for all children. You can't get this without first having that. Adult proficiency is the absolute requirement for achieving widespread proficiency with kids. Administrator proficiency is the basis for achieving widespread adult proficiency, which is the basis of achieving proficiency with children. Administrative proficiency, as we have defined it, is the absolute requirement for mobilizing the adults who develop children's proficiency. So that's kind of an organizational equation. Okay, so remember the question, what's it going to take to have people in this room make the commitment and go out and start making it happen? I'm going to offer something that I think can help if you're prepared to make the commitment. Achieving widespread adult proficiency requires a clear operational approach, a package of belief and action. You can't just go out here thinking, this is a good thing, you know, all kids should be college and career ready. That's not going to cut it. You have to have a blueprint, a framework for action. So you have to have a package for belief and for action. What is a package? This is a dictionary definition. A package is a finished product contained in a unit that is suitable for immediate installation and operation. Efficacy is a package. I'm going to offer a package in 3 parts. We call it the 3 M's: mission, mindset, and method. I'll describe each one in turn. What we need to achieve CCR, what's the package? Here's the 3 M's. Build consensus on the mission. Academic proficiency leading to college and career readiness for all children, and a sense of adult responsibility to achieve. Part of having that mission is having people embrace the mission with a personal sense of responsibility. You've got to change the mindset. A woman over here somewhere has said that early on in the presentation. We have to deal with getting a different mindset about the whole enterprise. People can, in fact, get smart. You have to establish the belief among both children and adults that sustained, focused effort, not innate ability, is the basis for development. I'm going to explain that in some detail in a moment. But that's the essential element. None of it works without the belief that we can do this. Then you have to teach the mobilization method. Install PLCs and the self-directed improvement system, which I'm going to explain in a minute, or something like it. You don't have to use our SDIS. Come up with your own method of using feedback to drive improvements in teaching and learning strategies. Now, do I think that this is all it takes? Yeah. Yeah. I'm not saying any of these things is easy and they don't have components, but what else does it take? And not hearing any answer, I'll move ahead. So the mission. We've already told you what the mission is. Keep that mission in mind, because that's going to be the place where you start. If you're going to put this out there. The mindset. I'm going to discuss the mindset as 2 contrasting, competing, opposing models of human development. 2 models of development. This is a critical question that humans have asked for as long as they're human. Why do some people get better, stronger, and smarter as they get older, and other people just get older? That's a question some of you may have asked about some of your cousins. The laughter means you know exactly what I'm talking about. So this is another way to express it. What is it that leads to development? Why do some people get better, stronger, and smarter? Here's the first answer. This is the one that has been sanctioned by American culture for over 100 years and has been broadly accepted into the hearts and minds of people who drink the water of American culture. Okay? If you start giving babies this water, they grow up to be good Americans. What is it that leads to development? Why do some people get better, stronger, and smarter? Because some got it and some don't. Those that got it can become it. Those what don't can't. And it's as simple as that. Now, in this regime, what is the job of educators?
To figure out who has it and who doesn't.
Say it loud.
To figure out who has it and who doesn't.
That's the job. And if you walk into your classrooms, you will see that that's what most of them are doing. They're making that determination, and then that determines who gets taught what. And when you see that happening, don't get mad at them, because you drank the water too. Right? One of the reasons that you have accepted that situation is precisely because we all, including you, drank the water. So you go in and you see that, and it makes sense to you. So what you do is you determine which of the kids are very smart. These are kids who can learn everything and learn fast. Okay? This group over here. And which of the kids are only SSs, which would stand for? Let's see if this group right here, let's see if you can figure out what SS means. Somewhat smart. Sort of smart. These are kids that can learn a lot of things, but they don't learn as fast as those kids do. And this group over here, they're not really capable of learning much. They don't have the same cognitive facility as some of the other kids in the class, but at least we can control their behaviors and keep them from being disruptive. Which group do you think the dropout population comes from when they turn 16? Here it is in words. In the innate ability paradigm, important human characteristics are believed to be innate endowments, fixed at birth, distributed unequally among the population and among different population groups. Oh, did I mention that? There are some groups that when it comes to, there's some VS groups, population groups. There are other groups that are only SS. And there are some population groups that everybody knows are KDs. And you know who you are. And so do your kids. Are you dumb? That boy dumb. That girl's stupid. You so dumb. And that's what they say to each other. That's how they talk to each other. Because they have gotten the message. Who they get the message from? From adults. You know, it can come from home too. Boy, you so dumb, you can't even tie your shoes. How old are you? In the innate ability paradigm, important human characteristics are believed to be innate endowments, fixed at birth, distributed unequally among the population and among different population groups. It applies to both intelligence. The unequal distribution of mental capacity is understood to be the cause of widespread variation we see in human performance and development. So, this is the distribution of human learning capacity. Okay? What's it called? There's mobility in this system. What direction is it going? This way? In the system, the way we currently operate. What direction does mobility go? Kids who were thought to be or categorized as VS, when we discover that they're not very good at math, kids who, dress nicely and the parents, clean them up to come into school and they speak more or less standard English that were thought to be this, turn out to have issues and maybe behavior problems. And they land here. So over time, fewer and fewer kids are VSs and more kids are in these categories until the end of the process where a tiny fraction of kids in an urban school system are still considered VS. And you know who they are. They're the ones in whatever AP classes you have. And if there's calculus being taught any place, probably not going to be in this high school, but you actually will bust them someplace so they can take the calculus course. But, we're talking 2 kids. The distribution of mental ability is understood to be the cause of the widespread variation, the wide variation we see in human intellectual performance and development. Why are so many people not very smart? Because, let's face it, they're just not very smart. Character. Goodness and badness may be thought of as permanent fixed characteristics that control the degree to which individuals behave with decency and integrity. So the same system can apply to character issues. In either case, these assumptions result in a tendency to judge people. We measure their intelligence, we assess their character as good or bad, and then we determine their possibilities for life based on those judgments. Because that's what we're expected to do. And because that's what was done to us. Where do you think the typical educator, American educator, comes out by the end of high school on the bell curve? What category is he or she in? Most teachers will self-identify as being SS. There was a VS in my family. She's a lawyer now. I'm just. You know what the rest of I'm just. You can't even say it out loud. But you know. Implications, and then I'm going to let you take a. We have a break at home. Implications. Ability is fixed. It's not subject to further development after early childhood. Either you have it or you don't. Some groups have it, and other groups don't. And everybody knows. If there's a black candidate for a high political office, what is likely to be said about that person by the other party? People have no sense of control. This is important. There's little one can do to change outcomes that are based on a fixed innate trait. So the thinking would be, what is this guy talking about? Getting all of these kids to that kind of standard. He doesn't understand what kind of kids I got in this class. The kids I have in this school, the kids we have in this district, these aren't the kind of kids that you can. I have no control over that. You expect me to do something about the fact that these kids are not smart enough to. Failure and difficulty are very important data in this system. They indicate the limits and ability and the futility of continued effort. We use failure to decide what kids can't do. The kids use their own failures and difficulty to determine what it's worth putting effort into. If I'm not smart enough to learn math, why should I do math homework every night? It's just frustrating. I can't do it. It makes me feel stupid. So they stop doing it. And that is logical. That makes sense, right? If I'm too stupid to learn it, why should I keep working and learning? And who, by the way, let me know that I'm too stupid to learn it?
Teacher.
Okay, let's take a break. That can include some ongoing conversation. You know what you might do while you're on break? I mean, if you're feeling motivated, you can discuss how this has impacted your personal life and the lives of your personal biological children, as well as children in your schools or school systems. And we'll see you at 10:30.
Maybe we should check it.